Alrighty, welcome to this video. In this tutorial, we're going to talk about liquid layouts. And those are just layouts that as you resize the browser window, they kind of stretch and they'll always fill. Just like if you pour water into a cup, it's always going to just stretch out and fill whatever you put it in. I think that's, well, I don't know for a fact, but I'm thinking that's probably where the name liquid layouts came from, is like no matter how big the container is, it'll stretch and it'll fill that container. And the container in this instance is the browser. So this video is going to be the whole process of just building it from scratch. I'm going to grab some stock photos. Feel free to fast forward if there's times where I'm not coding and you want to learn something else, that's fine. Just fast forward, do what you need to do here. I'm just going to create a new folder here. That's what you should always do. I'll call LL for liquid layout. Okay, and then I'm going to save this inside of that folder. So LL, double click, and I'll just call it index.html because I want this to be the home page for the site. So, by the way, if you didn't know, a server will always look for an index.html and display that by default. So I could type in, my server.com/ll, and I don't have to type in index.html because it'll find it, and by default it'll display it. So that's pretty cool to know. Now, thinking about liquid, I just thought, hey, let's do a site on water because I'm thinking of liquid. So these are kind of the three that I use: freeimages.com, Pixabay, and Pexels. Between these sites, you can get some pretty good pictures. So I'm going to use this as my background. So we'll do this first. So I'm going to click this. Actually, I'm going to hop back into my folder, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to create an images folder, and I'm going to create a CSS folder because that's where I'm going to put my CSS file, and then that's where I'm going to put my images. All right, so we'll come here, and I like this site because it gives pretty good images, and then it comes over here and it tells me the license, so free for commercial use, no attribution required. In other words, attribution? I don't know how you say that. Attribution, whatever. You don't have to say, hey, this was done by this guy. You don't have to give him any kudos or anything. So I'm just going to go free download. Now I can pick how big I want. This is ridiculously huge. You're really not going to need anything this big. The biggest you'd probably want to go is 1920 by 1280. That's usually the biggest resolutions people run on their computers right now, but you really don't want to go anything smaller either. But also a problem that we're running into a little bit is the size here, 355 kilobytes. That's kind of big. You usually want to get around 100, 150 or lower, but that's okay. We'll work with it. So I'll hit download, go to the LL folder, and we'll just call it BG, and we'll save it inside of images. Alright, so there it is. It's bg.jpg. So next thing I'm going to do is just open up a new file. And this is going to be the CSS file. So I'm going to just type something in there and I'll save it. We're going to save that in the CSS. So I'm just going to call this css.css. You can call it style.css. You can call it whatever you want. So right now I have my index file. I have my CSS file that I'm going to start writing things in here in a minute. And then I have this background image. So that's the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in that background image, and I'm going to make it a full screen background image. So no matter what size I make the browser window, it will be the same size. All right. So first thing here is I got to link that CSS file up to my HTML. And if you hear crazy babies screaming, sorry. They're my kids and they live here, and that's just really not a whole lot I can do about that. Can't kick them out, even though sometimes it'd be nice, right? All right. I think it's href on this one. I could be wrong. We'll find out in a minute. All right, so when doing, just to make sure, usually what I'll do is I'll just do a quick style here. So background dash color, and I'll just say blue, just to make sure that it hooked up correctly. We'll run that in Chrome. All right, so we know it's working. Okay, so that's good. So this link tag just links external style sheets. I could, if I wanted to, I could use a style tag, and I could start putting in all my CSS here, but that just makes everything a little bit harder to read, and it's just a lot better to organize it to have it be in its own little file over here. All right, so I don't need that. I'm going to get rid of it. I know that it's hooked up and everything's working the way it should. So the link, the relationship, I think that's what that stands for, is style sheet. Then you have type, text, CSS, and then href just tells the browser where to find the CSS file. And because I'm editing HTML right now, I have to tell it where the CSS file is in relation to or compared to the HTML file. So it's inside of a folder called CSS, and then I tell it to run a file called css.css, which is right there. Okay, moving on. So I'm going to use a hack here. At least I call it a hack. I mean, this is kind of the only way I've found to do this. There may be other ways, but this works good for me. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the picture using an image tag. And I did a slash right here because what that's doing is kind of opening the image tag and closing it in one tag instead of me doing this. So this is kind of a shorthand way of doing that. So I'm going to load in that picture. So it's inside of images. So I'm again editing index.html. So I'm going to go into the folder called images. And then I'm going to load the picture called bg.jpg. bg.jpg. We'll save that. We'll come back. We'll see what happens here. All right, it's this massively huge picture. So first thing we want to do here is kind of right click. We're going to go to the properties. Yeah, it's about 374 kilobytes. That's pretty big. So we kind of start doing this balancing act here. So I'm going to open up Photoshop. And by the way, the resolution I'm in is 1280 by 720. So that's why this picture looks so massive. Most people aren't in 1280 by 720. They're in bigger resolutions. But I'm doing this mainly so the video will look good and you guys can watch it well and see it just fine. So I'm going to throw that in there. Okay, I'm looking at it 33% of the actual size. This is the actual size. Now, because I'm designing for bigger resolutions, 1980 by 720, I really don't want to mess with the size. I could go to image size, and shrink down this size, and that'll make the image size be a little bit smaller, but I don't really want to do that. So really, one thing I can do, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not, it just depends, is I can do this save as. We'll call it BG2 for now because I don't want to get rid of the original. So when I save it, it's going to come here and say, all right, what do you want for your quality? And this is where I can start playing around and lower the quality a little bit, which will, make the picture a little more pixelated, but you'll get a smaller file size. So if I come down here to medium, and I hit OK. Let's see what that does. Now this may or may not be good. Who the heck knows? But I'm going to right click, hit properties. Okay, now I'm at 156. So I went from 374 to 156, and let's take a look at it. So this is what the original looks like, and that's what the other one looks like. You really can't tell. I mean, that's the crappier version. Let's make this bigger. Maybe we can see. That's the bigger. Yeah, I mean, really, I can't see a difference, which is great. That makes me happy. So I just cut that more than in half, and I really didn't get any noticeable loss in quality, which is great. So I'm going to get rid of that. And 150 is still a little bigger than I'd like, but I'm okay with it. I'll survive. All right, so we'll just call that BG. So now it'll be using the 150 kilobyte one instead of the 370 something. Okay, so it's in there. We'll refresh, And yeah, I mean, it still looks pretty good to me. I mean, maybe a little bit loss of quality there, but it'll be okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply a class, a CSS class. I'm going to just call it BG. It's going to be the background class. And now I'm going to style this to make it act like a background. So I'm going to come in here, and because we're doing class, it's a period. Remember, just think of school. You know, what do you have next period? Oh, I have biology class. You know, that's how I remember it, is the period and the class work together. So first thing I'm going to say here is height. Let's move that over. So height, I'm going to say be 100%. Width, I'm going to say be 100%. So that's telling it to be 100% of the height and 100% of the width of the page. So doing that, okay, so far it does a pretty good job there. So when I start kind of moving this around, okay, but the problem is it's still kind of not acting exactly like a background, which is okay. We'll slowly get there. Next thing I'm going to do is do position absolute. This just breaks it out of everything, and it tells it no matter what, be 0 pixels from the top and 0 pixels from the left. Okay. Now, for whatever reason, that position absolute makes it actually act like a background. So now when I move it around, it'll always be the background picture no matter what. Basically, the position absolute just tells it, don't worry about anything else on the page and just break free and just be in front of things, and, you know, if needed. So that's just kind of how it works. It's not relative to anything. It doesn't care about anything else on the page. It just makes it say, all right, no matter what, be 0 pixels from the top and 0 from the left. Now the last thing we need to do is a z-index, and you'll see why later, but I'm going to give it a big negative z-index number. Think of this as Photoshop. Like in Photoshop, if I were to draw something and put text here, if I were to take this text and make it and put it behind the background, it goes away. It's still there, but if I hide the background, there's the text, but the thing is the background is on top, so it covers it. So that's kind of the same thing that we're doing here, is we're telling it to give it a negative 10,000. In other words, we're basically putting it on the negative 10,000 layer. So if we're to put anything on this website, it'll go on top of it unless, well, for example, if this was negative 2, and then something came on the page that had a z-index of negative 3, it would go behind it. So whatever has the bigger or the larger negative number will go behind everything, and whatever has the lower will go in front. So something with a z-index of 3 is going to be in front of something with a z-index of 2. So right here I'm just defining it as this pretty high negative z-index, because it really doesn't matter what you put here, just as long as you could probably put negative 100 and you'd be fine. But I'm just putting it on there just because that's what I'm doing. Okay. All right, so that's the background. And this is liquid. I mean, really, whatever size the browser is, it's just filling it up. And that's what we want. Okay, so let's see here. Let's see what other pictures we got. The next thing we want to take a look at, I just searched for water, and I'm just kind of seeing what pictures we get here. So let's see, we got this blue. Let's try to kind of stick with the blue color scheme, I guess. This dude here, well, maybe blue and black could be pretty good. And this would probably be a part where you could fast forward if you wanted to, because I'm just kind of looking for what I'm looking for. I liked this right here. I like that one. So I'm going to grab that. Free download again. This time, this one's going to be the banner, but I think I'll still go with the original because that's big enough. Because remember, you can take a really high resolution picture and squish it down and it'll look good. But if I take this low resolution picture and I try to make it bigger, it'll be pixelated and it'll look really bad. So it's always good to start with big and go down lower if you need to. So I'll hit download. Oh, now it's wanting me to sign up. What the heck? That's annoying. Okay, well, fine. I'm not doing the original. You jerks. I got to sign up to get the originals. That's fine. This will work. All right, so we'll call this banner. We're going to save it in my images folder right there. And I'm going to mess around with this a little bit in Photoshop. I'm not going to do much to it. I don't want to spend too much time on the editing of images. But I'm going to do this. I don't want all this black stuff. All I want is just kind of the grass here. Let's kind of. So we're kind of making this a banner size right now. Then I'll just throw in some text. Let's see here. I'm going to use, if I can, go back to that picture. There we go. So I'm going to use this plugin here that I got, this eyedropper. And I'm going to say pick color from page. Oh, and of course I can't pick colors from this page. That makes absolutely no sense why I wouldn't be able to, but whatever. Of course these plugins are great when they work, but it's okay. We want some sort of blue type color. Maybe a lighter, nah, that's a little too neon-y. Just looking up here to kind of see what I have. Try that, see what it looks like. And I'll just say water is good. That'll be the incredible name for this site. So I don't really like that picture. And then I can throw some text over here to kind of balance it out. You know, maybe this is a conservation site. Use it wisely. Not a huge fan of this. Not a huge fan of this font, so we'll kind of see what we have. I don't want it to look too goofy or too... So just in case you didn't know, you can select your text and then come up here and click. Oops, not like that. But click on the font, and then you can use your arrow keys to kind of start cycling through. Sure, why not? Again, feel free to fast forward right now as I look for a good font. Again, this is the fun thing about design. Just because I think it looks good, there may be someone that's like, no, that actually kind of looks like junk. So it's just one of those fun things about design. Yeah, sure. Don't want to spend too much time, but I'm okay with that. So that's elephant. I love elephants. So I'll probably want to use the same there. Okay, another thing to pay attention to is hierarchy. So I kind of want water to be a little bit bigger than the rest of the text, just to kind of make it stand out a little bit more, and just to kind of give it a little bit of vertical weight there. Just kind of put that in there. And then the use it wisely is more of a kind of a subheading. So I'm going to shrink that down a little bit. Doesn't need to be as big because I don't want it calling out the attention. So I can say use it wisely down here, put a little dot, 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 you know, whatever. I don't like this color. I can come down here and kind of see it on the... Now what I really would like to do is use this eyedropper, and for some reason it just is being really dumb and it's not letting me. But it'd be nice to be able to pull some color from here. Well, I guess I can do that in Photoshop. Let me open that in there. Just copy this, Control C, come over here, Control N, cancel that, Control N, stop it. Jeez, Control N, okay, throw it in there. Yeah, whatever. No. New. Pixels. This thing is huge, so that's okay though. I just need to grab some pictures, or grab some colors here. Throw that in there. That's fine. Hit enter. So now I can come in here with the eyedropper tool. And now I can grab some colors. Oh, that's kind of cool. That's new. So I'm going to grab kind of a, I want more of a light color. Okay, so I think it grabs it down there, right? Yep, so I come over here, want that light, grabbed it there. 69A1C3, I'm going to copy that, bring it back over here, and I'll use that color. Just throw it in there. Double click there, click here, paste it in there, hit OK. Alright, now another thing that can kind of help, or you can come over here to the effects. So I can grab strokes. Strokes help sometimes. But yeah, it doesn't matter. This is turning into a Photoshop video, which we don't really want. So I'm good. We'll say we're good. This is my banner, so I'm good. So I hit save as. I'm going to do banner. We'll save this as a JPEG. Okay, and we'll just save it over that. 51, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with 67. Yep, that's good. So hit OK. So there it is. Okay, so now we're going to throw it in there. So go back to the code. We'll come in here. And I will create a div. Now I'll give it class equals banner. And then I will close out the div. Divs in web design are just sections of the web page. Think of them as boxes that you can put things in, you can move around, and you can style the things that are inside of it. So I could say here, I am in a div. All right, and if I come back to the site, there it is. Now I can't see the div, but I could make it so I could. So I'm going to come over here, and I gave it a class of banner, so we're going to start styling that. So period banner. We'll say, we could say color red. And then everything inside of that div becomes red. If I want to, I could say height is going to be 500 pixels, width is going to be 300 pixels, and the border is going to be 1 pixel, and it's going to be a solid border. When I do that, now you can see the div. So now the invisible div goes away, and now you can actually see this. So usually what I'll do, and this is just me, you don't have to, I'm going to get rid of that, is we want this to have a height of, we'll come back here and see what it is, image size. The height is 311, so we don't want to squish anything, so let's keep that the same. So height's going to be 311 pixels. But the width we want to be 100% because we're making this liquid, right? So no matter what size I go, it'll always be 100% width of the page, just like the background is, just like the background's doing. Now usually what I'll do with divs, you don't have to, is I'll give it that border just so I can kind of see it. But right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the picture of the border here. And there's a couple ways you can do it. Let's try this way. I can say background, and I'm going to say URL. Now here's the fun part. I have to say where the image is now in relationship to the CSS file because that's what I'm editing right now. So the CSS file is in here. Well, I can't tell it to go any deeper into any other folders because there's no other folders in here. I have to tell it to go up a folder. So get out of the CSS folder and go back into the LL folder. And to do that, you use .. So that says go up a folder. So it goes up a folder, and now I got to tell it to go into images / banner.jpg. So it goes up, then it goes into images, and then it finds banner.jpg. Okay. Now looking at this, I'm kind of like, this banner's pretty huge. We probably want to go into Photoshop and shrink it down a little bit. Or I could do this, but that's going to kind of squish some stuff, or it'll cut things off, which I don't want it to do. But for now, we'll just kind of leave it. But again, this is just stuff you'll need to tweak as you're doing it. Okay, now here's a problem that we get, is now it's not really shrinking down like it should. It's just kind of just getting cut off. So the way we can fix that is we can say, well, we're not going to do it as the background of the div. We're actually going to just come in here and get rid of I am a div, and we'll put it in as a picture. So now we're coding in relationship to the HTML file, so we can say go into images. So images / banner.jpg. Okay, but we're still not getting really the squishy stuff like we want. So we can come here and we can give this a class. I mean, really, actually what we could do was just kind of take this class banner, take it out, and just apply it to the picture instead, the image tag instead of the div. That should give us what we want. If not, we'll play around with it. So we refresh. Okay, now you can see that it's squishing. So then this also shows us, well, this looks kind of weird when I squish it. So maybe I want to rethink my banner and do something different. Or maybe I could take this text and put it in divs and put it over the banner. So I could, I could go in here and put it in as the background like we had it before, and then we can come in here and put divs, and then we would use the text. The HTML would become the text instead of having the text on the picture. So just something to think about, but the liquid of what we want is good, and that's what we're wanting right there. So that's some different things you can do with the banner there. All right, next thing I'm going to do is create some columns. We'll just do 2 columns for this video. So I got the first column, and then I got the second column. Oops. Again, we could say something like first column, just so we can see it visually, and then we can add text later. Second column. So if we go back to the page and look at it, there we go. One's on top of the other. So I'll give this class of columns. Now, because this is a liquid layout, you can get away with styling them both with the same class, and it can kind of do what you want it to. So we'll hit enter a few times. Oops, not with that. There we go. So I did class call. So because there's two of them, I kind of have to share the 100%, right? There's 100% width. So I kind of need to share this. So I can say, first of all, let's give it a border. Solid 1 pixel, just so we can see what it looks like. Let's see, the width is going to be, let's say 45% for now. And the height, we're going to say is 100% as well, because we want, no matter what's inside the div, we always want the div to be as tall as the content that's inside of it. So if we put a bunch of text in there, it'll fit it all because it's 100%. All right, so you can see no matter what, it's always 45% of the width. Now the problem is they're stacking. We want it to be next to each other. So you can say float left. And what that does is it makes them go on the same line. Okay, so this one's 45% and then this one's 45%. So that leaves us with 10% of nothing. So what I can do is I can give it a margin dash left of 5%. And then that should kind of move it over a little bit. Okay, now that one shot down because it didn't have enough space. So when there's no space, it just goes down to the next line. Now if I got rid of the border, that might help. If not, we'll need to lower some values. Okay, there we go. So there's a 5% space right here, and then there's a 5% space in between the columns because I said margin left. So the margin is on the side of the div. So there's 5% here, and there's 5% somewhere in here. So let's actually get that border back because I want to see it. And then we'll just lower this. We'll say the width, we'll say is actually going to be, you know, like say, 45 is, I don't know, 49, margin left 1, which will actually probably make us need to lower that to 47-ish. This is just going to be playing around with the numbers to see what they do. Okay, if I don't want, maybe I don't want a margin left, and maybe I want it to be all the way over to the slide. I'm going to change that, bring it back. Okay, but now I could say margin right to kind of, so these actually have some space there. So I could say margin right 1%. I mean, this is just what you kind of do. You just play around with stuff until things start working the way you want. Or if you want them and you're okay with them being against each other, you could say, all right, width will be 50%. We'll get rid of the margin right. Okay, they're running out of room because of this 1 pixel here. So we can just get rid of that. They should come back up. Yep. Now, I'll put some filler text in here. I'm going to go lorem ipsum. This is just, it's called filler text. This is Latin. Why they do this, I don't know. It's just one of those things about web design that's just kind of weird. You can come here, generate some lorem ipsum, and then you just grab filler text. And this shows you what a site would look like with text. This is basically what you do before you're like, well, I don't really know what the client wants in there, so I'm just going to put some filler text in there just to show them what it'll look like with text. You don't really care what it says, you just throw it in there. So right now it looks okay, not bad. I can kind of move it over and you can see it's still liquid. It's kind of changing the way it should. That's interesting. We got some issues with the background there. I think it's because you got to scroll. Interesting. Well, I don't know if we're gonna be able to fix that, but we'll see. Okay, so there, and then so if I wanted to, I could come in here and say padding. And what this is space inside the div. So the margins were on the outside the div. So margin left is the space outside the div, but padding is space inside the box, inside the div. So I could say padding, the way this works, think of it as a clock. It starts at noon and it goes around. So it starts padding top. So noon is the top of the clock, right? Top of the hour. I'm going to want like a 10 pixel padding in there. And then it goes over to the right, 3 o'clock, which is right. So what do I want for the right? I don't know, 5 pixels. Bottom, 5 pixels. And then the left, I'll want another 5 pixel padding there. So let's see what that does. All right, so that actually makes it so there's not enough room, so that shoots down. So we can say, well, let's try the width of 49. Okay, that didn't do it. How about 47? All right, so there we go. So again, just playing around and seeing what'll actually fit, what won't, and things like that. Anyways. So, and then the last thing here, if we wanted to, is we could put in a footer. Now, also because of this, because this is kind of weird, we could come over here and let's style the whole body. This will be the whole page. I can say background dash color, and then I could just grab a color that would kind of help it blend in, which could be this, I don't know, the color that I'm using on the text. So I could grab this, I copy that. So I can come over here, background dash color, throw the pound sign in there. And so if it does start acting a little weird, at least we kind of have this color here to kind of cover that. But it does, no matter what you do, it stays the size, but it's just when you start scrolling. Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, how is that? I think it's background. I think it's attachment fixed. I think that'll fix it actually. Maybe. No. There's a way to make it where when you scroll, it shouldn't scroll with it. I'm pretty sure that's background attachment, but because it's a picture, that may be the issue. Yeah, background attachment fixed, but that's because it's actually set up as a background image. Anyways, I'll play with that. If we, well, because, yeah. Maybe that? Sorry guys, again, this is somewhere where you could fast forward if you wanted to. No, because the absolute, it needs to be absolute. Well, anyways, let's finish this up here, and then we'll go See, because I'm going to put some more text in here and kind of get an idea. Throw that in there. Yeah, and then when I scroll, it doesn't do it anymore. Well, anyways, that's something that I'll take a look at later. But we're still going. Let's say we want to create a fixed background. And if you're watching this and you know how to do that, feel free to email me. I'm never going to pretend to know it all. I know a good amount, but I'm never going to say that I know all of this stuff. Yeah, of course, once you're done with things, you always learn what you did wrong, right? And you figure out things later, and you never have them when you want them. So here, look. So remember we had that problem. We would scroll, and we get that ugliness. Well, it doesn't do that anymore. It's kind of annoying. I should have known this while I was making the video, but all you got to do is come in here and make it fixed. The position's fixed instead of absolute. So for right there, class BG for that image that we did, position is fixed, top 0, left 0 instead of absolute, and that will do it for you. So as you scroll, it doesn't scroll with it. Thanks. See ya. All right, so let's throw in a footer. So we can come down here and we'll call it a div, class equals footer, slash div. We can say footer, and then we're going to do a class of footer as well. Throw that in there, and it's just going to be kind of the same stuff. Width 100%. Height, we'll say the footer will be, I don't know, 50 pixels, and we'll give it a border, solid 1 pixel, just to see it for now. Now it's way up there, which we don't really want, right? So we're going to tell it to float. Not flat, we're going to tell it to float. So this really, you'll see, this is kind of how CSS is. You put in some stuff, you save it, you go back, you refresh it, you see what it does. And then you save it, you go back, and you're just going back and forth, seeing what it does, and just hoping that it works. If it doesn't, you go and you figure it out why, and all those kind of things. Now you can do divs inside of divs. So I could say, all right, this is going to be the div footer in here, but I want it to be, I want to throw some stuff in there. Hit enter a couple times and I can throw in another div, and I could give it a class of, I don't know, content C1 for content 1, or I don't know, something like that. We could say copyright 2000 whatever we are, 16-ish. So we save that, come back here. So now we got that, but now we can kind of start styling that. We can say, well, class C, color, I don't know, black, why not? We can say position relative. So it's going to be relative to where it is right now. Left 10%, top 2%. Okay, that moves it over a little bit. Maybe we need more like 12% there. Yeah, that brings it down. So now as we move it, that'll be moving over as well. So this would be also how you could do something like, geez, can't see it. This is going to be also something how you could do like a nav bar. You could have a navigation bar going across here, and then you put a div inside of a div like this, and you throw in a picture for a button or a link for a button or whatever you want to do there. But it's just, yeah, you're throwing on divs, you're styling divs, you're putting them where they need to go, and you're telling them to do what they want to do. Another thing here that might help this is kind of hard to read. So we can come in here and we can say background dash color RGBA, I think. And then we do 255, 255. I think that's going to be white. We'll see here in a minute. Or maybe I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Did I spell everything right? Column, right? Or maybe it's just RGBA, right? Maybe I have to put that in there. Let's go 0.6. If this works, I'll explain it. Where the heck did it go? There we go. Okay, cool. So I guess you have to put that value in there, which is kind of interesting. So 255, all 255s, I'm pretty sure that this is the red value, the green value, the blue value. This is the full presence of all those colors, so you get white. And then this is the see-through value. So you can actually make things see-through. If I go 0.1, that's going to be like really see-through, like you can barely see it. If I do 0.4, it's going to come and you'll be able to see it a little bit more. But that's just a cool way to kind of still see behind and see what the background looks like. But you can, now this has become readable. All right, and then in here we can start playing with padding and we can start playing with widths and stuff to get this to come over here. Another thing we can do is margin dash bottom. Give like a 20 pixel margin bottom. That's just going to shoot this down. Okay, so we got a 20 pixel space down there. So anyways, that's how you can start doing things. And yeah, I think that's about it, all I want to show. This should be enough to be able to start doing what you need to do. Get your backgrounds in there and such. And if you have any questions, let me know, and we will talk to you later.